Today we've got a great malicious compliance story involving the sick policy at work. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, insurance company wants the form signed. The lady's post who said that the government agency wanted all the forms reminded me of the time that I was dealing with an insurance company about a car crash. I was waiting on a check from them and I kept calling, and finally the guy said, "Well, we never received your signed forms." And I said I faxed them on X date. He said, "Nope, sorry, no faxes from you." And I said, "Okay, fine, I'll fax it 5 times this time." And he laughed at me in a condescending way, so I did what I said I would do. And every single time I faxed it, I made sure to write an extra page in there saying, "Just making sure you got it," or something to that effect. And I did, in fact, fax it 5 times. About 2 hours later, I received an email letting you know that my check would be sent out the following business day. I will say, faxing in this day and age is pretty archaic. That said, there has been at least a handful of times in the recent years where something had to be faxed. And most importantly, for whatever reason, it seemed like when faxing, a lot of times you had to send it multiple times because the people on the other side just seemed to not get it. Pretty much all of those situations were like healthcare related. I don't know, maybe it's just a sign that we as a people have moved on from faxing. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome malicious compliance stories, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, cool, embarrass yourself the perfect way. Used to work in a startup as the lead developer managing a team of 8. I had this manager, calling him B from now, who had a long history of jealousy and on any occasion used to mention he used to be a programmer in his youth as well, and he knows much better than everyone. Believe me, he was a 50-year-old kid. At some point, our company got a project from one of the banks with a deadline of 2 months. The project was somehow complex mathematically, but doable in 2 months with the right choice of people and planning. I was explaining this in a mutual meeting with B, the manager, and CEO, when B jumped into my speak. "This is a serious project. Unlike other projects you are in charge of, I will manage this project personally and will hire a new team reporting directly to me. It's better if you don't get involved in such serious projects." Thing is, I had a successful experience in rich mathematical projects, and the CEO got that project exactly because of its similarity with our other project, which involved the same mathematics. I exactly knew what must be done there, but B, it was the best opportunity for him to embarrass himself. I said, "Perfect, I'll focus on our own products then, and you take charge of this product," I told the B in front of the CEO. B started interviews and asked me to participate. I helped him a bit, but it was a challenge for him to accept people I rejected just because they answered nonsense questions asked by him. Like, how many doors did you see coming to our floor? What was the color of the 3rd door? Like, really? The project started, and after 1 month not hearing anything from them, I had a request from B. "My team has done everything, but we need a little help. Can you give us these APIs to return some data?" Told him, "Let me see our plannings to see if I can dedicate time for this." Then sent him a letter in our system somehow like this. "As per our discussion, our team can deliver the APIs in a short time. We just need you to respond to this letter with a short description of inputs and expected outputs of whatever API you need. It doesn't need to be lengthy, so we're ready to start as soon as we get the documents." No response was given, and I forgot about it until the next month when the deadline had been passed by a week. While shopping on a weekend night, I received a call from the CEO with the angriest tone I'd ever heard, screaming, "Why haven't you gave B the APIs? The project can no longer wait, and B says your team failed to give them what you promised." I responded, "Look, stop screaming and give me 5 minutes, and then you can do whatever is needed." The CEO responds, "Okay, tell me." I tell them, "Search for this letter in the system from me to B at that time range, open it, and then I'll continue." The CEO then responds that they found it, and I say, "So B requested this last month. All he had to do was to respond to this letter in 10 minutes and I could give him whatever he needed." But not only did he not, he never again mentioned it in person as well. The CEO responded, "Got it, we'll call you back soon." 1 hour later, I called again to see why he didn't call me. The CEO responded with, he and his team didn't do anything except some mock-ups for the bank. Not a single line of back-end code was written, and they were looking for a victim to blame him. He didn't respond to you because he couldn't write that they need all of the back-end fully implemented by you. Due to the friendship B had with the CEO, he wasn't immediately fired, but the next month, he left the company on his own. During that month, his team was merged into my team. They were good people despite previously being rejected by me, just they weren't suitable for a 2-month deadline project. And I got his role right after. Still one of my best stories so far. You know, I was gonna say that I was surprised that even with friendship, B managed to stick around for at least a small amount of time before leaving. But I do have to say, at least B leaving of their own accord, seemingly, means at least this company isn't on the hook trying to pay or compensate somebody for getting fired. And let's be real, somebody who did what B did almost seems like they're intentionally trying to get fired, or at least like hate the company and want them to do poorly. Wayne HNZ commented, did you do the actual job in the end, or did the bank go elsewhere? OP responded saying, yes, but then we did it for free for the sake of keeping the relationship with the bank, which paid off pretty quickly. The bank was one of the first serious customers of our other product, and it opened the door of negotiations with other banks and organizations. Our CEO was a perfect negotiator. He deserves that. Our next story is, serve pizza while hopping on one leg? Got it. Back in the early 2000s, I was a waiter at a famous red-roofed pizza shack. It was back before they went downhill and closed the dining rooms. One night, the teenage dishwasher got caught selling weed to the other employees and was fired on the spot by the newly minted manager who wasn't much older. No one was tasked with doing dishes after that, and the bus tubs of dishes were piling up, and people started setting them on the floor. I went back to set some dishes on the pile, turned to go back to the dining room, and twisted my knee when my leg got lodged in between 2 bus tubs on the floor. I heard a crunch and fell. I sat on the floor in pain and then tried to get up and put weight on it with little success. The young manager saw me and told me that I had to continue serving pizza because I was the only waiter and I would be fired if I didn't. So I hopped from the kitchen window to the tables, serving every pizza. Customers asked what happened, and I told them that and why I was still serving while hopping. They were angry and one confronted the manager. Finally, I got sick of the hopping and called my girlfriend to come get me. On the way out the door, the manager said, "You better get a doctor's note," and I left. So I went to the ER, and I ended up having a torn meniscus and ACL damage. I lawyered up since I knew it was a sure bet, and a year and a half later, I won a $10,000 settlement from the company. The first thing I did when I cashed that check was have a huge pizza party with all my friends in that same restaurant. That manager was there, giving me the stink eye the whole time. I'm gonna be honest, I thought this was gonna have like at least another $40,000 or maybe just a whole nother zero attached to that figure. When OP says they walked away with $10,000, I mean, it's still a clear victory, but you kind of wish the Hut would have paid up a little bit more. Logical Honey 4689 commented, only $10,000? I hope you got workman's comp too, because you would have had some medical bills for sure with all of that. And did he really go through with firing you? I assume he did since he got a settlement, but I have trouble seeing how he could be that dense after a customer confronted him. That was when he should have thought about it for 2 seconds. OP responded, I had insurance so the comp was rolled into the amount. I also had a previous ACL injury from skiing, so I couldn't get much more. Our next story is, time is a concept. Just after the invention of the printing press, I worked for a small but highly respected academic publisher here in the UK. I was part of the sales team, crisscrossing the country visiting universities and bookshops promoting our titles. It was a good life before even car phones, never mind mobiles. Once we were out on the road, we were pretty much our own bosses. Our sales manager had done the same job, knew how things worked, and was perfectly happy to allow us to make our own arrangements and decisions as long as our territories were profitable year on year, and they were. Then the stars realigned and we were taken over by a much larger publisher. So now, instead of knowing pretty much everyone in the company, it was just a voice at the other end of the phone when we needed to get something sorted. As is often the way with such large organizations, it ran on tram tracks. For example, as reps, we had company cars, for which previously there had been a set budget, and we could have whatever we wanted as long as it fell within the financial restraints. Not now, there was a choice of 3, and that was that. Came the time when they decided that company-wide people were not using their time efficiently, especially with regard to meetings. Thus, highly expensive consultants were drafted in, and one of their recommendations was that every single employee should go on a time management course. It was just the merest coincidence that this consultancy also provided the course. Eventually, our sales team got the word, and we had to jump through these particular hoops. In vain, we pointed out that we were not office-based, so we rarely had meetings, and if we did, they were organized and run by somebody else. We could hardly tell a customer or university academic that they were taking too long and could we please go a bit faster? And finally, time management for us was avoiding traffic jams and roadworks so as to get to our next appointment on time. Until matter transfer was developed, no course in the world was going to improve that situation. As you can probably guess, all this fell on deaf ears. There could be no exceptions. The trams were heading down those tracks with no possibility of stopping. Somehow, this course lasted 3 days. I have no idea how, as most of it consisted of stating the blindingly obvious. In addition, there were traveling days at each end, as all 3 days were 9 to 5. So the 4 of us had most of a week in a 4-star hotel with virtually unlimited food and drink, gaining nothing but weight from the whole experience. I can only guess what we cost the company. Even at those long ago prices, it had to be a long way into 4 figures, plus the time off the road, as for a week, the sales team had not sold a single book to a single bookshop. We were supposed to write follow-ups detailing just what we had gotten out of the course, but after discussion with our sales manager, this requirement was quietly dropped. Probably just as well. I mean, what can you say about a company that needlessly allows themselves to get swayed by a salesman that's like, hey, you need to give all of your employees this time management course. That's going to save you so much money. It's honestly one of those decisions or purchases that you hear the company makes that make you go, oh, I'm working for those kind of people. People who would be suckered into paying and wasting time for that kind of stuff. Sid Manley commented, efficiency consultants. Anything but what they say they are. Our next story is, sure, I'll pick up your binder. This happened years ago in high school. I was talking about it recently with someone and thought you all might get a chuckle. When I was 16, we moved across the country from the north to the south. New school, new culture, new friends. The friend group I ended up fitting into had a girl who allowed others to treat her badly because she wanted attention. An actual example was she allowed a boy to draw a target on her forehead and spit spitballs at it. Wild. We'll call this girl Lana. I was always nice to Lana and sympathetic when she would get angry with people for going whatever she considered too far. I would try to tell her that she needed to establish boundaries, but she would go right back to letting people walk all over her. One day, I was on my way to the trash can when I noticed Lana had a balled-up piece of paper on her desk. I said, want me to throw that away for you? She said yes, and it was no skin off my nose. I was already on my way to the trash. I like being helpful, but that doesn't mean I'm a pushover. I'm the youngest sibling and only girl of 4 kids. That moment must have made her think that she could climb up the social totem pole by stepping on me, because later, during my study time while the teacher was out, Lana looked at my best friend, we'll call her Amanda, and said, "Hey Amanda, watch this. OP is my lapdog." She looked me dead in the eye, dropped her binder on the floor, and said, "Pick it up." I was flabbergasted. Amanda looked at me and said, "OP, you don't have to pick it up. I'm not ignoring this. I've been openly disrespected in front of the whole class." Lana, like me, was really short. I had maybe an inch on her, and it gave me a beautiful idea. I told Amanda, "No, it's fine. I'll pick it up." Lana looked so cocky when I said this, but that was cool. She wouldn't be feeling cocky for long. At the back of the classroom along the sidewall were 2 tall school library-style bookcases. I picked up the binder, walked right past Lana's outstretched hand, snagged a chair, climbed it, and with the tips of my fingers barely managed to push it on top of the bookshelf, which meant she wasn't getting that down without help. Amanda was laughing her butt off when I climbed down, and I said to Lana, "There." I picked it up. Lana immediately turned to a boy in our class, we'll name him Chris, and whined to him to get it for her. Bonus point, she needed it for our next class. I looked at Chris and said, "Chris, I've always been nice to you. This is between me and Lana. She disrespected me, and all I'm asking is that you stay out of it." He apologized to Lana and stayed in his seat. I let her whine for a bit, and when she finally apologized, I said, "I'm more than willing to help you if you need help, but that doesn't make me your lapdog. It makes me a good friend. So be a good friend back and treat me nicely." Then I told Chris if he wanted to help her get it down. I was cool with it. She never tried that on me again. It's stuff like this that make me not miss the high school days. Granted, I never personally experienced anything like that, but all the same, it's kind of just that level of discourse and that thinking of relationships and social hierarchy and whatnot, and I especially don't miss the spitballs. Our next story is made up policy by the store managers. So we work at a pretty cozy teleco job. I've been there for 2 years and they've only tried to pull this policy stuff a few times. Below is 2 examples. So it's common courtesy that an employee gives their manager notice if they're sick. The only reason I say made up policy is because the managers try to enforce us to only get medical certificates in person since an online doctor couldn't properly assess your condition, so it's not valid apparently. They received a bunch of pushback, and that rule silently just stopped being enforced. With notice, my managers say that a text is not enough and that I have to call them even if they see the text. To clarify, I have 1 store manager and 2 assistant managers, so my body clock forces me to wake up just before 6 a.m., still have gastro pains, and I call straight away, then again, and again. No answer, send a text saying I'll call again in an hour. I did this every time. They never pick up at 6 a.m. So I stopped calling altogether and would just send a text around 6 a.m. along the lines of, "I'm not feeling well, please let me know if you've seen this, I'll call before 8 if not." 2 of the managers found that fine since they had experienced my 3x calls at 6 a.m. The 3rd manager recently sent me a message around 9 a.m., texted that I was sick and he responded saying get well soon. They said, "Moving forward, I expect a phone call for every time you call in sick, as that is the correct process and has been expressed to the entire team as well. It is an expectation, not an option." So the next day, I'm still sick. I wake up at 5 a.m., I particularly do not like this manager, call 5 times, then send the text, "I'll call again in an hour, I'm still not feeling well." Call again in an hour, no answer. Go to call again, he sends a text, "Okay, hope you feel better." Power trip shut down. Edit, I only say power trip because of my relationship with this manager. He's worked with me for 2 years and has been fine with the texting until that one time, which just happened to be my next shift after we had a disagreement. Edit, with the medical certificates, in-person doctor's appointments are very hard to get the same day. I live in a suburban/industrial city and a pretty big retiree and pensioners population, so the doctor's offices are booked out by the time you call up to make an appointment that same day. Besides maybe just being a little bit more visible than just a text is, what's the point with forcing a call? Is it really more about some kind of nonsense of, well, you don't sound sick? Go on, give me a few coughs, let me see if you're actually sick. Miss Damon commented, then there should be a policy that the manager is required to answer the phone, but if the policy is to call, then calling and leaving a message meets the policy. I wouldn't call multiple times when sick. Our next story is my first and last high school detention experience. There was one time I got annoyed with the preppy kids in high school being jerks to everyone, so I went to the store at the mall with my older sister and bought a can of fart spray. It was basically canned sulfur, and took it to school. I found all their lockers and sprayed them all down with this stuff. Needless to say, I got 7 days of in-school detention, but when my mom was called to the school, the principal made me wait in the hallway so she could talk with my mom, and I overheard the principal laughing hysterically through the door. Detention was kind of brutal, but I was determined to accept it and take it on. The detention lady wasn't ready for my stubbornness. She gave me all of my classwork for all my classes from all my teachers for the next full month. There was one problem though. They freaked up. They had locked a medicated kid with ADHD in a room with books and classwork. I hyper-focused my way through it and got all of the classwork done in like 2 days. The detention lady was extremely upset by this, especially because I just calmly approached her unaffected by the entire situation and just asked her for more work. She said that I did it all. Then she got ticked off and slammed one of those giant pink Webster's dictionaries on my desk and gave me a fresh blank spiral notebook and 3 pencils. Next, she said, "I want you to write every word and its first definition in this dictionary," and then gave me an evil grin. For like half a second, I was shocked, but then I realized this is my chance. I smiled at her and just asked her, "Am I allowed to get up and sharpen my pencil on my own, or do I have to ask your permission every time?" She said that was fine. 3.5 days and 1 extra spiral notebook later, I had done it. My arms were blackened by graphite, but I was completely satisfied because I got to see that shocked look on her face. She was in complete and total despair. She took my spiral notebooks, and it was in that moment I knew what I had to do. She wouldn't be able to resist if I asked because she so desperately wanted to discipline me. I smugly asked her as she took the notebooks away, "Aren't you going to check my work?" Edit, my memory of 20 plus years ago isn't so great. I updated some details to make the story more accurate. As somebody who was only recently trying to address and deal with ADHD that I think has been lifelong and undiagnosed, I wish I had a form that would allow me to hyper-focus on stuff. Mine is the one that presents in the way that it's hard to do anything for a long extended period of time. When I am doing something, I have the insatiable urge to hop off and hop back on, and especially the hardest time just actually starting things. Zorg Galacticus commented, "I'm ambidextrous and I can speed write. They always made us write sentences as punishment. I can write with both hands simultaneously, so I would do 2 sheets at a time. Always got done super fast. Always made them angry." Our next story is, finally, a real malicious compliance story. I'll have to keep some details a bit vague. I work for a just-in-time company and was on work assignment in Japan. They had some strange approaches to prioritizing which safety items needed focus. They also have a very specific method and format for problem solving. This is important later. If you've ever driven in Japan, you know that some roads wouldn't pass as a cart path most anywhere else, and most have very deep gutters that will crap mix your car right quick. My company car was a gorgeous 87 horsepower Vitz. I still miss it sometimes. When idling in drive, it hovered around 22 to 25 kilometers per hour. Sorry Americans, I don't know how many hogcocks to the melted Velveeta it is in freedom units. The speed limit on the site was 20. The speedo for the Vitz was in the center console, and the driveway through the site is quite long and narrow. I couldn't watch both easily. One day, they had safety team members out in a literal speed trap. I got pulled over. Driving infractions are pretty serious, and I am Gaijin, so they lost it on me. They flagged down lots of people, but only I got yelled at. I had to write a shame letter and do a problem-solving report for root cause and countermeasure. Sure. My reasoning was I couldn't watch the speedometer and the narrow lines at the same time. The idle speed is too high to maintain safe driving. Countermeasure, my beloved Vitz had a B gear, Jake brake for brake fade on mountain roads. In B, it idled at exactly 10. They loved the report. It was shared with my working group. The next time I was on site, I went directly to my car, got on the lot exit to the winding, narrow, single-lane driveway, and put it in B. There was a huge line of cars behind my idling 10km/h Vitz, with the guy directly behind me losing his dinged mind. It took forever to get to the gate, although no one was speeding. The next morning, my boss said there were many complaints about the white Vitz driving too slow. I said safety first, and I don't want to risk another speeding ticket at work. He said I didn't have to drive 10 km/h anymore. Freaking nope. Every day I worked on that site, I drove exactly 10 in and exactly 10 out. I feel bad for screwing everyone else over, but if it's serious enough to give me a speeding ticket and a shame letter, then it's serious enough to be diligent about. They made an announcement that the safety Gestapo would limit safety audits to activity on site and that the activity was a great success in slowing down unsafe drivers. I think that was a tacit approval to go back to the old way. Even then, 10 kilometers per hour in, 10 kilometers per hour out. It became a running joke in my group though. I think they envied the malicious part of the compliance. They wouldn't be so strident against authority as it looks bad. I'm a petty Gaijin, I don't give a crap. They would ask when I was arriving on site. I would say I'm just pulling in. They would say, I see, we'll see you in 25 minutes. If I ever have to go back there, I'll do it again. Safety first. They shamed OP, they wrote OP up, and then they're gonna turn around and say, but, if you really want to go a little bit over 10 kilometers per hour, we wouldn't mind. We'd probably now turn a blind eye to it, Like, you don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to shame me and make me feel like a terrible person and hold something against me and have a red flag on me and then turn around and say, but keep doing what you were doing though, because we kind of liked it that way. Our next story is, you either can or you can't. Guess what? I'm going to be a grandpa for the first time. My daughter is pregnant and living in Texas while I continue to schlep away at my teaching job and deli produce and butcher job at Arizona's hometown grocer. Saturdays are my busiest work days because I work deli 8 to 2, meat department 3 to 7, mostly clean up, and then right to produce where I cut fruit until done. Usually 60 cups or bowls in 3 hours. I work like 12 to 13 hours with an unpaid break in between departments 2 and 3. My wife was in Texas for the gender reveal, and we decided that I would stay back to take care of the animals. She was going to come out with us in a month to vacation in Vegas anyway, so I was good with missing the gender reveal in person, so long as I could watch it live. Even that I was okay with missing if they sent a video if necessary, but they scheduled it around me and FaceTimed me at about 2:10 or so. I just punched out from the deli and was walking to a quiet place. Didn't see Jim Halpert, surprisingly, when the reveal was going down. My son, my grandmother, all were patched in also. I made sure I had a decent angle on things so I didn't have to move. Just as soon as things started to happen, my store manager, Mindy, let's call her, comes out of the store, walks to me. I was outside of my car, elbows on the roof while the phone was on, and chided me for being on my phone when I'm supposed to be in the meat department. I mentioned my daughter's gender reveal, pointing to my phone, and told her I wasn't scheduled until 3. This should have given her pause, but it didn't. I unmuted myself, evidently. Don't you hate that? When she became super adamant, saying, look, either you're working today or you're not. Enter malicious compliance. She obviously assumed I was scheduled to go directly over to the meat department and didn't realize I worked cut fruit also. I knew the schedule and was familiar with the policy as well about working a 14-hour shift. If I'm scheduled to work 14 hours, anything over 10 in a 24-hour period, I get paid a premium for the entire shift. And for some reason, with Rally's buying us out, there's also a policy where even if you call in for that shift, you can use your personal leave or sick pay and it pays the premium rate. It's a weird loophole or whatever that's the one bright spot to this not-so-hostile takeover. I was given a golden opportunity here. I replied, I'm either working or not? I'm gonna go with not. Seriously, I need to spend some time with my family. My shift doesn't start until 3, so that gives you time to find somebody, right? Oh, and also, you'll need somebody to cover me for cut fruit tonight. Manager goes, look, that's not what I meant. No one here knows how to close meat or do cut fruit. Sorry, Mindy, I just can't make it. My daughter's pregnant in Texas, and it is a big deal, I say as I hold up the phone of people, one of which yells out, ha ha, a la The Simpsons. She turned away in anger, disgust, resentment, regret, who knows, but I certainly didn't care at that point. The wife was upset originally because she didn't realize I was going to get the pay still, but that paycheck just dropped today. Wanted to make sure it did before I officially wrote this out. It was like $308 just for that Saturday. I stayed on and FaceTimed the remainder of the time that was feasible. Didn't want to force my other son who went with mom to miss out on his fortnight. The Simpsons were on still. Oh, and it's gonna be a boy. Well, honestly, I'm just glad that this had a happy ending and OP was still able to kind of take part and pay attention to the rest of the gender reveal. And honestly, a situation like that where you know you're getting paid a premium? I mean, why not? It sure beats whatever rates OP would have gotten otherwise. Wooden Badger commented, Jesus freaking Christ, how much time do you spend at the teaching job if you're also pulling 14-hour shifts at the grocery store? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely awesome malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.